Hey guys, Malcolm Moore here, and in today's video I'm going to talk to you about riding hard, icy conditions. Ice sucks, nobody likes doing it, it makes your life much more difficult, it's much harder to get your board's edges to dig in and grip in the snow, because that is essentially what we're doing all the time when we're snowboarding. We're looking for our edges to dig in and get grip and kind of build this platform upon which we can balance against. And just to illustrate the point that I'm making, I've got a knife here, and you can see, obviously with a sharp knife, I should be able to just kind of push it down fully into the snow, and I can barely get this more than a few millimeters here into the snow. So there will be places where we have a bit of softer snow, this kind of sugary, icy snow above that will give me a bit more of a help, but really underneath this piece, we've got this solid icy section, okay? And now, some of my friends who kind of help me film sometimes and follow me down with a camera, when I pitched this video idea to them, none of them wanted to come and help me, because who wants to ride icy slopes all day? So I'll be filming this video entirely on my Insta360 X3 camera, and if you're interested in this camera, don't forget to check out the video review that I made of it that I'll put in the description down below. But for now, let's get on to the task at hand, which is how we can make you better at riding ice. And I'm going to kind of attack this problem from two angles. Firstly, we're going to look at how we can ride ice as best as possible and maintain that image of what good snowboarding is. And by good snowboarding, I mean making these S-shaped turns down the mountain, achieving as much grip as possible and having the least amount of skid as possible. So that's the kind of ultimate goal, but I'll also show you how sometimes it's not fully achievable. If it's really, really icy to achieve that, some of the things that you can do just to kind of safely get down and across these really icy patches. And then in reality, you'll see how normally when you're snowboarding on an icy slope, what you will be achieving will probably be somewhere in between these two things. So we're going to start off with an exercise that basically kind of forces you to exaggerate some of the key things that you definitely want to be doing if you're on an icy slope. The first thing is going to be getting down nice and low. When you get down low, it brings your center of mass closer to the board, which makes it easier to balance. I'm just double checking I put that knife back in my pocket, because if I didn't, that's not very good. Yes, I did. Cool. So, as I mentioned, you want to get down nice and low. It brings your center of mass close to the board, but it also pushes your knees out really wide, which is going to help spread your weight across the entire length of the board. We want to use as much of the edge as possible to give us the best chance for achieving grip in the snow. Now, sometimes when we snowboard, things like shifting the weight to the back or the front of the board, so fore and aft movement, can be really effective. But when we're riding ice, I like to keep my weight really centered, equal between both feet, so that I get as much grip as possible. So, on my heel edge, get down nice and low, into that position, just side slip for a little bit and see if you can kind of come to a stop, or I appreciate coming to a stop is quite difficult, but almost coming to a stop, slowing it right down. Once you're in that position, just standing up, crossing your hips over the board, onto your toe edge, and doing the same thing, coming down nice and low. Now, obviously on the toe edge, you can't come quite as low. If you start bending at the hips like this to get the board to go lower, you put your weight behind you and actually you won't grip. So keep the hips forward, keep that good posture, but try and bend your knees out nice and wide as much as possible. I'm just going to go off to the side so I'm not in anybody's way. And good posture really is the first kind of biggest key, okay? And I'll post some videos down below about achieving good posture and just making sure you have your weight in the right place so you're sending it down over your edge is really going to help. So we're going to go from this exercise, just getting down nice and low, almost stopping, coming up, crossing the hips over the board, making an edge change, getting down nice and low again. Once you find the board gripping, once again standing up and coming over. So this really kind of helps with the transition, the crossing of your center of mass, the crossing of your hips back and forward over the board. And once you've got this, we're going to start working that towards the kind of goal of that S shape. So I get down low, but I add in a slight traverse across the slope. Board's gripping, stand up, get down low, skid a bit. As the board starts gripping, pull it into that traverse across the slope, and then up, down again. As soon as you find the grip, you can start to work it straight into your next turn, And then you should start to kind of achieve that goal of those nice, smooth S-shaped turns. Now you'll see my turns here are very small. And this comes under the umbrella of, rather than technique, what I would call tactics, okay? You want to keep your turns as small as possible so that you're spending the least amount of time as possible with the board pointing down the slope, picking up speed in the fall line. If you're picking up more speed, obviously that's more of a pressure build-up that you're going to have to manage, that you're going to have to deal with at the end of every turn. So, good posture is key, equal pressure through both feet is key, getting down low is key, and keeping those turns nice and small is key. So something else that kind of comes under the tactics umbrella, you'll see now I've come to the side of the piste, you'll be saying, hey Malcolm, you stabbed that knife in up there earlier, it was clearly icy, but here, what's all this? You've got this soft, sugary snow underfoot, and you're cheating. Well, it's going to be very, very rare that you have a completely sheet ice piste. There usually will be some of this kind of sugary ice particles floating around on the top. And because I'm at the edge of the piste right now, usually most skiers come down the middle and it pushes a lot of that softer snow to the sides. So when you're riding down the piste, look out for that softer snow, and obviously try and avoid those really smooth looking icy as hell bits and aim for the bits with this kind of softer snow on, because that is going to allow you, like what you can kind of see here, to create this platform that you can then balance against, that you can then push against when you want to make your edge change. So that's it for technique, really, getting your technique as spot on as possible and really just kind of spreading your weight evenly between the feet. Now, I mentioned that there's some other things you can do just to kind of help you get down the slope a little bit safer. And you can basically just go with this skid for a little bit longer, and even if the slope feels really smooth, if there isn't much of this sugary snow on top, I guarantee you, there will be a little bit of it, and the more you kind of skid over it, you'll start pushing it underneath your board, and you will eventually create this platform. And once you feel that platform that's kind of built there, you can then push against it and make your edge change. So just let me show you a couple of those right now. So I'm going to come around, skid a lot. Let me just jump off that, and you can see there, my toe edge, only skidding a few meters, it built this platform of soft snow that I can then push up against into my next turn, skid against it, find that platform. Once that slows you down and you feel the grip, you can push yourself up. So, try and make these turns as short as possible, but if you feel yourself still skidding, just go with that skid a little bit until you build that platform of that soft snow, and that then gives you something to push against. I'm just gonna come around here, check this piste out. Okay, now, if the slope is quite flat, like we have here, it shouldn't actually be too difficult for you. When we're just going along a flat slope, we're just going with gravity, we're just going with the slope, so there's actually very little pressure going down through my edges. Again, it just comes down to posture, hips forward on the toe edge, hips back on the heel edge. So long as you can rock between these two positions and we're just going with gravity, you don't need to get down low into this super strong position because we're not really fighting with the ice, we're just going for it. Then, as you come round onto the kind of main bit of the piste, start off cautious. Spend your time progressively sinking down lower. As you do, the board will start to grip in the snow, and then you can start to kind of speed up those movements. Get down low a little bit quicker, you'll find that grip a little bit quicker, and as soon as you find that grip, pushing up against the board, releasing the pressure that you've built up and making the edge change. Just getting down where it's a little bit steeper again, and it's not actually particularly icy here, but if it is really icy, go with that skid a bit longer, take a little bit longer getting down low, getting into that strong position so that you push that soft snow underneath your board, create that little platform that you can then push up against. Okay, so I'm sorry guys if you were kind of hoping that in this video I'd give you that magic solution so that you could suddenly start carving like a boss in really icy conditions. Basically, when you're riding ice, it's just harder than riding normal snow, okay? You can't trust your edges as much. You can't just make a big lateral movement and slam your weight over the side of the board and hope that the board grips. You need to kind of be a little bit more careful in getting yourself down into that strong position and being a little bit more patient and just waiting for that board to achieve grip. Okay, so you know, it's just about getting your technique as good as possible. And I know people like to kind of brag and everyone thinks that where they live has the iciest conditions in the world. I actually had a guy tell me just the other day that it's so icy where he lives that he can see his own reflection in the piste underneath him. Now, I'm not sure about that. I haven't seen the evidence. I did ask him to send me a photo, but he didn't oblige. But I understand some places definitely are icy. The east coast of the US, it's definitely meant to be one of those places. I haven't treated myself to a trip there, and I don't imagine I ever will, if that is the truth. And you just got to do as best as you can. And on one final note, I just want to talk a little bit about equipment, okay? So having your equipment tuned up as best as possible will also make your life easier. So I'm actually filming this on a newer board. I've only ridden it 3 or 4 days, so it's got pretty sharp edges, and that's helping me out on the ice. Things like magna traction, like on those Libtech boards, that does help. It kind of acts like a serrated bread knife, and it kind of cuts you into the snow. I'm not actually a big fan of magna traction for its overall feel of when the conditions are nice. I find it a little bit grabby, but if you live somewhere that is icy a lot, it might be worth looking into that. And now I know I am a big fan of wider boards. If you've watched lots of my videos, I hate things like toe and heel drag, especially when you're trying to do a really aggressive carving. If your board's too narrow for you, your boots dig in the snow. But if you're riding ice, a narrower board does help a little bit as well. I'm not riding the widest board in the world here either, and that just makes it a little bit easier for me to get my weight over my edge and kind of leverage myself into a strong position where I'm sending my weight down over that edge and having the edge dig into the snow. You know, there's a reason why professional ski racers ride on these kind of skinny, narrow race skis. They get more grip on them. They're not, you know, no one's entering the Olympics on a pair of fat powder skis, okay? So that's your tips for riding ice. Get down low, spread your weight evenly between your feet, make sure your posture is spot on. That's the key thing. But don't beat yourself up if you have to skid a little bit. Even if you are skidding, you will be able to find that grip at the end of the turn. If you just skid for a meter or so, you'll kind of build up that platform of the softer snow. You will be able to find that grip, but also try and make life more easy for yourself by searching out the pistes that are in better condition. And when every piece is in the worst conditions in the world, simple things like riding on the side of the slope where that soft snow has been pushed to will also help. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Whoa. I'm gonna go back up to the top and ride some more ice. Fun times, baby. Yoo.